Hello, YouTube family. Hope you are having a good night tonight. And I know it's a little earlier in the week, but since the day's all done, basically, I'm deciding to make another video for fun. And if there's two things that piss me off to my core, it's when people sometimes dog on retro video games, which I get it, it's not for everybody, everyone has their opinions. But more so when people dog on games that I personally really like. And there are games which they have a lot to look positively on, even if they're not the most sought after in the eyes of the public. So I'm coming up with another list of ideas of videos I want to make. That was not in the script. In fact, these videos aren't even scripted. Only one or two of them I've ever made were scripted. But I have a clear idea, just from the mind, and for my honesty is all the script I need for reviewing this stuff. Because if I see them for myself, I played them, and I know what to say. What I want to do tonight is talk about 5 video games that are regarded by popular opinion as not great or heavily flawed, but these are games I look on them pretty fondly, and these are games where I don't think they deserve the shade they get, even if they are flawed. So we're going to go over 5 video games, and I'm going to give my complete honest opinions on them, just 5 random games from 5 random systems. So let's go ahead and get started in the list. I'm going to try not to keep this video too long. So let's go. Time period of these consoles will also vary. For instance, we're going to start with the Game Boy Advance. I had another one that I wanted to talk about, but I'm going to keep it one per system. So we're going to do one for the Game Boy Advance. And this just happens to be one of my all-time favorite Game Boy Advance games. Well, and I'm not just talking about the fact that this is a double pack, but it contains one of my all-time favorite Game Boy Advance games. I have Castlevania Double Pack on Game Boy Advance, which comes with Harmony of Dissonance and Aria of Sorrow. Now, Aria of Sorrow is regarded as a phenomenal game. I wasn't crazy about it at first, but then the more I played it and the more I replayed it, the more I really got into it, and I agree with the hype. I think it is a proper sequel to Symphony of the Night. People don't look too fondly on Harmony of Dissonance. It gets dogged on a lot because of how it sounds. And what frustrates me even more is people dog on the controls, but what I really like about Harmony of Dissonance is it is one of the only, I think it's actually the only Metroidvania titles where your main character is a Belmont. Like when you beat the game, you could put the characters' names in from the different stories, and then you could play as them, like Richter and Julius Belmont. But in the main game, you're actually playing as a Belmont, and I think that's vital to Castlevania games, because the Castlevania games should mostly be about the Belmont lineage. So that's just my interpretation on the story. The game, I love how fast Juiced moves. He moves incredibly quick. Only Castlevania, I know playing as Richter is also really fun because he dashes and stuff and runs like hell. Controlling Richter is a ball, but Juiced is his, if you know, he's his grandfather, so I can wonder where he gets his fast moves from. He runs and dashes, and my god, you can move through that game so fast. I guess the whipping can feel a little clunky at times. You can perform moves with the whip that feel great on others. Bosses, I know, the bosses are way too easy, I know. But they're laughably easy to the point where it just becomes enjoyable and you can get a good chuckle out of it. That final boss, I have no idea what that background is in the final boss room. And I kind of fully realized later on why Dracula is a like a collection of various body parts, which just looks cursed as hell. But to me, it's a very iconic final boss. It's a crazy. It's, and again, absurdly easy. But the look of the final boss is just crazy. Honestly, yeah, I mean, those are just some of the points about Harmony of Dissonance where I think are a few strong points. Again, not a lot of people like that game, but here, I mean, whoever said on the front cover it's possibly one of the best GBA games ever made. First of all, that was before Aria of Sorrow. Number two, I can't disagree with that person. Not too long ago, I briefly touched up on Samurai Showdown for the Sega Genesis, and it's only after I reviewed this game where I found out some people had some good points about it, where it is a little cut back, and admittingly, I do think the Neo Geo version is more superior because of the sprite scaling, and I think the music's a little more upbeat, but in my opinion, for what they did with the Sega Genesis here is competent enough. It's like, and when I say getting by, I don't mean like kind of half-assing it. I think they did a decent enough job to where I'm not going to go back and return this game right away. I actually played a little bit of it last night, and again, I said to myself, this still controls pretty well. I mean, it still feels like a proper samurai combat game overall, minus the cutbacks. Some people gotta understand, the Neo Geo is way more powerful than a lot of the 16-bit systems that came out. So of course it's gonna be a little bit cut back. They also had Samurai Showdown on the Sega Game Gear and the Game Boy. I mean, I've never played those versions, but I'd be willing to give them a try. But Sega Genesis is still 16-bit. Yes, again, I can see how it's a little cut back. I think the soft tone of the music kind of sets the tune for samurai fighting games, rather than it being upbeat and quirky, if you know what I mean. I think the soft melodies fit with this game pretty well. The colors look fine. No complaints about the colors. I know the Neo Geo has a slew of colors. I mean, yeah, again, they also ported Super Baseball 2020 to Neo Geo, which turned out fantastic. Samurai Showdown does have its perks, and as I said, my first impressions of this game, I thought it was pretty good. A lot of people don't like this version because of the cutbacks, and because they think the gameplay is a little bit laggy. But I just don't see it. I don't see a half-ass port here. One game I can tell you that I thought was a little bit off. I was playing it, didn't find it to be as fun as it should, and then later found out it is indeed pretty half-assed, is Primal Rage on the Super Nintendo. And when I saw reviews on that, I'm like, okay, I think it, maybe playing the arcade version would be a little more of a step up, but I don't think it would even be that much of a difference. Maybe I'm just not a big fan of Primal Rage, but I think Samurai Showdown is a better effort here and certainly topples Eternal Champions out of the water. I'd still rather play this than Eternal Champions. Don't change my mind. You can't. Look, when I was starting to collect Sega Genesis for the first time, I saw a loose copy of Eternal Champions. Thought it'd be an easy pickup for the collection. Then I sold my Genesis games, rebought them, and I saw a boxed copy of Eternal Champions, picked that one up from the now debunked Holy Grail video game store at Pastimes. Pastimes is still open, luckily, but the video game store moved. I played it and you want me to complain about something? Let's talk about Eternal Champions at some point. Overall, I think Super Nintendo did do fighting games better, but the Sega Genesis games, for the most part, if you have a 6-button controller, there are some good ones out there. I'm not complaining about Samurai Showdown. Speaking of Super Nintendo, there are a lot of gripes about the shooters, And I can definitely see why. There's typically so much slowdown which hinders the gameplay. One really well received Super Nintendo shooter and one I am pretty disappointed about is Gradius 3 because it really is a good game. I think putting a Gradius game on there, let alone a few Parodius titles following up, which surprises the hell out of me. It's like, wow, Super Nintendo had more Gradius games than I thought. I wonder which console had more of them, the Super Nintendo or the original Nintendo. But Gradius 3 is so slow. It is so sluggish on the second level. It's like this is such a well-received game. It was hated when it first came out. But, I don't hate the game. I really do like it, and I want to like it more than I actually do. But that slowdown. It's like... But just about every other Super Nintendo shooter I've played, I really like. And I still don't think the Super Nintendo should get as much hate as it gets for shooters. And one of such instance is Darius Twin. Oh boy, does it boil my blood when people hate on this game. I mean, I get it's a very, very linear game. I mean, I guess there's nothing really that special going on. Okay. But that's just about all I can take for the complaints. I mean, the music... I mean, I guess you could have better soundtracks on Super Nintendo, but with this specific soundtrack, it brings back some memories playing this game. Like from recently when I got this, the Darius Cosmic Console Collection for Switch. This was one of them. I was pretty impressed with how much this sounds like Mega Man X and UN Squadron, also for the Super Nintendo. I mean, this predated both of those games, I believe, and it sounds near identical to both of those games. Gameplay itself, very little slowdown. Controls are pretty easy to get used to. You basically fly around, shoot. The power-ups, you can get powered up fairly quickly, and when you die, you don't even lose those power-ups. Oh, and one other valid complaint, which kind of does debunk the game just a little bit, maybe for some other people a lot, but doesn't bother me personally with arcade games, because it's kind of a one-and-done thing until you go back to it. No continues. That's right. A couple lives and then down the shitter. You gotta start all over. But okay, that is pretty annoying. You should have continues. But even in the next title, Supernova, also known as Darius Force on the Super Famicom, I mean, wow, talk about a different soundtrack for sure. That one is very atmospheric. I think both of those games have atmosphere to them. They got character. I mean, Darius Twin definitely gets more hate than it deserves. It gets a lot more shade. I really like this shooter. Or the good old classic Nintendo Entertainment System is Operation Wolf by Taito. Known for Space Invaders and Bubble Bobble and a bunch of other arcade classics. The fact that they put Operation Wolf on the Nintendo Entertainment System is nothing short of surprising. Where I will definitely agree with the public on this being a shit game is playing it with the Zapper. There are two games on the NES that I can used with a zapper per a CRT is Duck Hunt and Operation Wolf. It is very... Well, I mean, I still think it was necessary at the same time because this was a light gun game in the arcade. Now, I know the PC Engine version gets a lot more respect, but it didn't come with any kind of light gun, so props to the Nintendo for having a light gun option. But it is near impossible to play this game with a light gun. I mean, you can barely hit anything. You die so quickly. I mean, I can make it to like a quarter of the map before my life just goes straight down the shitter. Where I'm biased about this game is the controller option. If you play this with a D-pad, believe it or not, it does control a lot better. It really reminds me of... God, there was this one game on the Atari 7800, very similar. You fight aliens, I think. I'll add a little JPEG or PNG of the pic in the video to show you what I'm talking about. That one, which I did play on an emulator, using button controls, I thought that one was really cool, and that's what this reminded me of. So, Operation Wolf, playing it with a D-pad is pretty solid. I mean, I can make it past a few levels, and the farther you get into the game, I found myself to be enjoying this one quite a bit. Going back to the PC Engine, that version, because I said that doesn't have a light gun, playing it with the D-pad controls did make it a great title, which further proves my point that this can be a good game with the right controller. Just don't hit any of the hostages. So, this one surprised me more than any other one. So, I'm going to be completely honest. I watch this YouTuber, Retrocore, and his Battle of the Port videos. Great YouTuber. I really enjoy hearing about his opinions on old console and computer games and what he thinks of the ports. Whenever he comes across a bad port, it is hilarious to see how much he dogs on it. And I could see why. But in one of his videos, he briefly talked about Battle Arena Shinden on the PlayStation. He called it awful, and quite a few other people called it awful. Now, my stance on this is, after playing Soul Calibur, I like this game. I actually really like this game. I know, even releasing on the PS1 Classic Edition, it was... I mean, you gotta give it benefit of the doubt that... somebody commented, and I quote in source, Battle Arena Shinden walked so Soul Calibur can run. And I think that is a very good point. Now, Soul Calibur 2 on the GameCube is an excellent game, and these two kind of play similarly. Where I will give the public opinion credit for dogging on this game is that it does feel a little bit clunky at times. It can be kind of frustrating when the camera angle just doesn't want to go where you want it to go. But I had some really good first impressions about Battle Arena Shinden. I thought overall that from the opening narration to the title screen, it looked very promising. So grabbing your attention, say in an essay, is very important to hook your reader. Just like hooking your reader in an essay, the title screen and opening should also be vital to what you're about to expect in a video game. I think the title screen does it justice. Playing the game, classic arcade style beat 'em up. And as I said, with the similarities to Soul Calibur, I think it does play pretty decently overall. I did make it through the game with a character. Now, the end cutscene was a little bit bland. It just skipped straight to the credits. No cheesy end cutscene like in Tekken. Like when I beat it with Yoshima, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, and he rides through the town. I think they could have given it a little extra love there by maybe adding some end cutscenes. Although maybe it does give it a little bit of an effect as to what happens next or where this character's going to go. After the main final boss is defeated, which was... I really like the final boss. I really like how he yells, "Next!" after he kills you. I thought another great final boss right there. Also have your typical mirror matches, which are pretty annoying, but not pretty uncommon for tournament fighters. Again, I really just have a hard time kind of genuinely complaining about this game. Maybe I just like to see the good and everything. And I'm not going to be one of these guys who... I'm not going to hate on Battle Arena Shinden. I really like this game. And the fact that it came on the PS1 Mini, well, not the best selection of games, I think is not the worst option you're going to get on there. And I honestly don't understand the complaint with PAL games either. I mean, if it's basically the same game, then... I mean, it's not like Commodore 64 games where you get two of the same title but different developers and they're basically two different versions. If they're the same version of the game, then... See? Moment of silence. Doesn't that speak louder than just me talking? So, that is basically 5 games right there that are deemed to be disliked or mediocre at best, but are games I personally really like. Now, what are 5 good games that everybody deems to really like that you, as the viewer, are disappointed in when you first played? I also got those picks in my collection, so we'll go over those at some point. This has been fun. So what do you guys think? Drop a comment. Please tell me. And see you later.